You know what's interesting? They've switched it up for the longest time, for the last few months at least, when they've been getting beaten up by Slow and Steel Synergy and now Fraternity. They've been just, couch surfing between three different entities: BlackFlag, Vendetta Mercenaries, and from High Sec with Love. From High Sec with Love. Oh my god, I can't speak. And it's interesting because their normal MO, like for years, has been to spread their war decks out between a few or more war HQs, right? In a high sec. But lately they haven't been. And for months it's BlackFlag has been propping up one single war HQ with 100+ war decks at once, going, come at me, bro. Now, here's the interesting thing. Tracking their, hopping between alliances through different corps. They just drop members, and their members individually join another corporation in another alliance, right? And they just continue the war decking unabated. There's no 2-week cooldown at all, because they could just do that and exploit the system. But what's happened today is, instead of going back to BlackFlag, which they could have, it's been 2 weeks, they've stuck in Vendetta Mercenaries. And the interesting thing is, very interesting thing is there's 3 things going on, and you wouldn't think they're related, but they are. So I'll lead you through my thought pattern. At first, when I spotted it, I was like, oh, they haven't gone back into BlackFlag. They're all still in Vendetta Mercenary Group. What gives? So you go in their war history, and they've got 30 active wars, and I'm like, oh, that's odd. I'm just used to them for the last 3 months hopping between alliances. As soon as their sole war HQ is blown up, they'll go to another alliance. But they haven't. So they're switching it up. Of course they will. And they've got a bag of tricks. It's a limited bag of tricks, though. But it is a bag of tricks. So they've got new active wars, which hilariously have war deck Slow and Synergy of Steel. They're the #1 entities that are beating the living crap out of them for the last 3 months. And Fraternity just beat up their last war HQ. Now, in the same system, which they had it ready to go already, they started war decking. They waited a bit till the wars ended, then they immediately went to war decking everybody else. Now, the interesting thing is, and here's the interesting thing is, they are shedding players, as each iteration, when they couch surf between entities, I noticed that 1 or 2 players each time would kind of rage quit. They wouldn't follow the pack, and their activity just dies. And there's 2 assumptions you can make from that individually. One, maybe they just are sick of hopping between alliances that quickly after a defeat, and or maybe they're just sick of getting their nose bloodied. And the former, it doesn't make any sense, because they're used to hopping corporations. They'll drop members and have those members join another entity. So they're you just look at their employment histories. It's a dog's breakfast. They do that to exploit the system, right? So they're used to doing that. If it's the latter, they are so used to winning all the time and getting their nose bloodied can be a hit. Now, what if it's both? What if on the outside, Chromius has decided not to do the whole alliance shuffle because they're used to hopping entities, but they're used to doing that in this context of exploiting the system, not because their nose is being bloodied. So hopping alliances when your nose is bloodied is a real morale hit for his players, even though I'm sure, just like SRS, Chromius is the core of this. It's one of those, come at me, bro, and he could do that, you know, for freaking ever, right? But he's going to shed players the longer this goes on, and it's inevitable. So I think he's either, well, simply, maybe I'm overthinking it, and he's just you know, bag of tricks, switching it up, or it's in reaction to literally his players rage quitting on him, and it's going to happen more and more, and his player base has not grown. For every member that rage quits, another comes back to the fold eventually, but his player base and his character base has not increased since the beginning of, you know, everybody rage quitting after Slow and Synergy started beating the crap out of them and paying attention to them. And a whole bunch of people quit on him. And he's not being able to gain that traction. He's not being able to gain traction on attracting those old players back. And when they do, they almost immediately rage quit. Because it's the same thing. He's hopping entities, not because he's exploiting the system, but because they're getting their nose bloody. And they're not used to that. They're absolutely not used to that. So that could be a definite thing. So, I'm just speculating. It's fun. Yeah. All right. Back to. Actually, I need to go to sleep. Yeah. Good night.